Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Jay Sundararaman. Thank you for the MLC for the opportunity to share our learnings in the digital transformation journey. We're very excited. In fact, in a sense, it's also giving back and sharing, which you will know as we go through the slides. So, myself, just a quick introduction. I lead the Business Transformation Office. For portfolios, I did the capital planning and execution for our company, acquisition integration, continuous improvement, and digital transformation and innovation. So they all play together, and I want to share today the role of analytics and how IPG is approaching leveraging process excellence in delivering our digital transformation promise. So quickly get into who we are. So IPG, Intertape Polymer Group, is a leading packaging and protective packaging solutions company. We're about $1.3 billion roughly in revenue. And you could see the key products that we make: tapes, films, protective packaging, and woven products. And we are fairly distributed across the globe, 27 plants, mostly in the Americas, but also in Europe and India. We've heard about Industry 4.0. The promise of 4.0 is called out by the World Economic Forum, $3.7 trillion. And you see the McKinsey studies coding out what kind of opportunities or value drivers you could realize with this particular Industry 4.0 opportunity. So what we would do is, like, even though this is the promise, 4.0 is actually relatively new, but yet it's the most searched term in Google. So if you were to think about it, so the name first came a decade back, and it's 6 times more results than lean manufacturing, which has been around for the past 6 decades or so. So even though there are a lot more articles, most searched, what you find is the 4.0 implementation track record is fairly spotty. There's no proven industry playbook that you could take it off the shelf and implement it. And the victory or the success is hard earned based on experimentation. So what we find is the studies say less than 30% of the companies who attempt to scale deliver the expected ROI. So what I would like to do is to share with you IPG's approach and the journey that we have embarked on as it relates to digital transformation in delivering or driving our operational excellence into the digital era. So number one, we are investing quite a bit in our digital transformation. You got to follow through with the capital commitment. So you see that we are doing it. We got the broad-based support from our operations leader, CEO, CFO, and the board, which is critical. Second, it's not just the capital. You got to invest in the talent. It's more about reskilling, upskilling the talent, and also establishing what we call as the digital process center of excellence. So how do you leverage digital tools and techniques in driving the process improvements? It's critical on how you go about doing it. We'll touch on the mantra we believe in is about empowering employees with technology. So you would see more on how we go about doing it and what's the approach. Summary first, where are we in our journey? This kind of gives you a quick look at what we've been doing and where is IPG and where are our investments and what kind of results we are seeing in our early phase. So if you think about it, the first one is around analytics. We are already scaling across multiple plants, and successful plant pilot, which was key for proving out the concept. And we're also seeing successes, early success in multiple other plants in applying this digital analytics framework. And we've noticed the ROI is less than 2 years, which we're very, very proud about. And then we're also exploring in augmented reality, virtual reality, but that's when it's in its early pilot phase. 3D printing, it's scaled up, it's proven, and most of the plants, major plants, have 3D printing, and they're printing their own parts. And the ROI is incredible. And the machine health, we're exploring this in its pilot phase, and it's also proven to be very successful in terms of the ROI and also the centralized management systems. So today, what we will touch upon, the focus area is around the analytics, on how IPG is leveraging analytics through process excellence. What is our approach? Where have we been, and how do we go about it? So I want to share that with this group. First, before we begin, it starts with the mindset. So digital cannot be approached the same way. You got to have a mindset and a commitment and the cultural enablers. One, it's about a learning environment. You're going to learn because there is no defined playbook. So you got to figure out a way and what makes sense. And then the part is around growth mindset. It's not going to happen in one shot. You're going to learn. You got to believe that you're going to make things happen. And people are going to learn and grow as part of the process. The third aspect is about embracing failure. Success is not guaranteed. First of all, the stats say so. And the more so, here is like we got to be able to learn from the failure and move forward. And the last part is about the risk taking. The key here is, by definition, you're given some tools and methodologies that you don't know how best you could leverage. There are some pointers and guideposts, but you got to figure it out and you got to take a leap of faith and be willing to do the risk taking. All these are critical in making this journey happen successfully. So for us, the journey began, I would say, 3 years back. We investigated about 15 plus analytics platforms. And part of this is like, that's when we became a member of the MLC as well in the last year and a half too. Primarily connected with network of members who are being on this journey for a period of time. It's incredible what you learn with the group, especially on this type of journey, because playbooks don't exist and each one is learning and discovering. And I'm very grateful for, our company is grateful for all the members who've been open and sharing their lessons learned, discoveries, and what worked and what didn't work, and how the process is not easy. And also to the MLC members, the teams that put together these seminars and webinars. I still remember sitting on with the ones first I came on, the GMs were sharing like, hey, how each one approaches it. It's not that they have found the solution yet, but they were all sharing the learning process, which is critical. So the learnings helped us in terms of shaping our thought process, and we piloted 4 different analytics platforms over 18 months, tested different ones, and then ran another extensive pilot for another 12 months before we finalized our analytics platform and partner. So this is critical. By definition, you got to be willing to learn what it takes and how long it's going to take to make this work. And part of the discussion is it's not the same platform is going to work for everybody else. You got to understand what works for you, what type of industry you are in, and what kind of a commitment you're able to extract from your leadership team and the initial team that's willing to go through this learning process. Because we do 3 platforms, so you can't have the plan teams quit halfway through. And then this requires the plan that we chose as part of the pilot one, which incidentally won the High Achiever Award for this year. Our Tremonton facility is known for a very good foundational continuous improvement program. They already won the Industry Week Best Plan Award, but the caveat here is like we're learning digital tools. So you need to have the mindset and the foundation in place with which you could work in figuring out what works for the rest of the company. So this is critical in terms of experimentation and learning and finding the right group of people who are willing to do it for a long period. So the learning is solidified, and then you take that learning and work out the kinks before we go into the other plans. Our approach, there are different ways to go about it. You would have learned different things, but the one that we worked with, this has resonated for us, and this is the methodology we are adopting, is around focusing on the business value. See, there are multiple ways to approach connectivity, digital transformation. So you could say, like, hey, I'm going to standardize on the network. I'm going to pick my IT program, architect it properly, standardize everything before we go. What we found out for a mid-sized company like ours with 27 plans and multiple acquisitions, the biggest way, because technology is changing and evolving, and if I were to embark on the journey of standardization, I'll be on it for the next 3-4 years, before which the technology would have changed. We thought the most prudent way for us is to focus on the business value. And this really worked. And the business value creation has been what been delivering our success, not only for the pilot plans, but for also all the plans that we are scaling now. While we focus on the business value, the second is around the integrated approach, which is having a common data dictionary, establishing the process, capable of looking at it holistically, both the IT, OT, process engineering side, operations, the whole 9 yards on how this works together. The third piece is around creating capabilities. So what it means, how do we do it? Is that a template, playbook, framework on what works in our pilot plan and what needs to be customized? We define that. And now, proving that successfully, we are scaling those across the different plans. The last but not the least, I would say, is like capturing the business value. This is critical. I wouldn't say it's the step 5. I would say it's part of step 1 through 5. We've been very meticulous in terms of approaching where the value creation is going to be and how we engage the different partners and understanding how to capture that value and govern the process. So how did we go about? So the team-wise, this kind of gives you a structure. When I talked about digital process center of excellence, we got the sponsorship at the highest level from the CEO and the board. And then we had operations, so the business transformation office leading it. But then the operations, IT, and finance are co-creators in this journey. The biggest difference, I would say, is we did not double down on analytics per se. We doubled down on our continuous improvement and process engineering expertise. So one thing that we did, part of the project champions who were driving it from my team, was part of the BTO. They are the specialists. They're the subject matter experts on the process side. And along with the IT OT specialist and the CI team, we have dotted line relationships with the plant teams. So when we are going into the plan, they had dotted line relationship to my team. So they were engaged. The time of what they work on and how they work on and how do you put the process is kind of streamlined from the structure standpoint. And this enabled us to also, when we are now scaling across the plant, the commitment from the resources is also established. And people know that this is what we are going to do for the next upcoming quarters and the methodology and the process. So how did we go about delivering value? So this kind of gives our roadmap on how we took our steps, digital transformation steps to value. So first, as we talked about, it's all anchored in business value. Why are we doing it? Where is the value creation happening? The step 1 is the stack infrastructure. What kind of assets do we have in the plans? And what kind of state of connectivity they are in. We got plans that are old, ancient, with islands that are unconnected, with the systems that don't talk to each other. And there are these latest plans that we built in the last 3 to 4 years, which had all the connections. Now, when we went about investing in the CapEx upgrade for these plans, we made sure that we are tying it to the business value creation. And that could be either set of assets or it could be a value stream approach in understanding where the gross profit dollars are generated the most and which has the biggest opportunity from a business case standpoint. We invested part of the phase one in those particular projects first. Then comes the connectivity. So connectivity, again, you could stream all kinds of data and try to make sense out of it and create a big data lakes and all those good one. But the caveat here is like, we're not creating, again, it's a conscious choice. We're going to focus on areas where we know there is opportunity. There are other areas where we may be able to take advantage in future, but those come part of the phase two. Let's just focus on where we know opportunity is and develop those mainstream data connectivity and take advantage of those. For example, in one plant, it's focused, incoming raw materials is a critical factor in the quality of the product. So for that plant, that is a data stream that we want connected. But another plant, that's not a big deal. So the process is more forgiving from an incoming quality perspective. So for that plant, that was not a priority. Again, conscious choice focused on business outcome. The third step is data modeling and blending. This is critical. I would say most projects take off or fail based on this because the first two experiments with software analytics platform failed, even though they had much better GUI, graphical user interface, and tools and capabilities. We could never understand how the data or validate it and how the process insights could be derived from it. Even though they all looked on screen, we couldn't really get our handle around it. So this is a critical step. Now we got a process framework, and it takes time to get this right. This is important on how we go about doing it, and it takes anywhere between 6 to 7 months to get the first one right. After that, value creation happens. So visualization, once you got the data model, you got those outside the box tools, it helps. But also you start customizing for particular process on what could be done. The value creation, this is something that we captured. I shouldn't put it just here, but this is where the rubber meets the road, because now the tool and the platform and the modeling is done. Now you start doing your process insights, problem solving, hackathons. It's our way of bringing just data. In the past, we used Kaizens. But now think about Kaizens and steroids. It's like these are all not mutually exclusive. The idea here is like you now use data insights as part of your continuous improvement exercise. But this is done throughout the process. And then comes your site deployment. There's a methodology on how we train the people and onboard at different levels, frontline, engineering, as well as the leadership. And then the scale-up roadmap that we got. So in terms of the training itself, you could see what is happening is we have different levels of users. We have created a digital academy for the different users, the standard users. What they need is just a visibility, be aware of what's going on, how to do some dashboards, just focus on their particular activity. And then your performance user who needs to know, are they winning or are they losing? What could be done to explore the data? What's causing them to fail? Is there something they could do to improve it? And then you have your power users. Now, this is like drawing upon the power of the platform and how they can leverage technology and capabilities to understand and draw insights. So this is getting rolled out and certified for different people as we roll the platform, because you would see the one thing we did as part of the different platform pilots is I used to go around and ask them like, okay, we've done the pilot. Now, if we pull the platform now, don't worry, guys. If it fails, it's on me or the corporate side. We will take the hit, but you don't have to pay for it anymore. And what we found when we selected the final analytics platform, none of them wanted to leave the platform. It shows then like, okay, it's finally getting integrated. People are seeing the value of it. And we know the use case or the process and the dollars will follow, because if people start using it, and they start trusting it, that's when the magic starts happening. So if you think about next step, the way we approached, I'm just going to touch on one specific use case in the interest of time around the process centerlining and optimization. So if you think about it, like we are a process industry, we got machines making products in a continuous manner. And you would see for a particular recipe to get it organized and set anywhere between 50 to 100 variables that you monitor or set points you set, and there are at least hundreds of variables, sometimes thousands of variables you got to figure out, both internal and external factors that results in keeping the machine running at the best high yields and the best runs. So the way we want to go about it, I'll just give you highlighted with an example. This process, to give you a flavor, is way from a filmmaking plant where we make the films. It's the bubble that you see. These are pretty thin bubbles. It's 6 times thinner or 25x smaller than the human hair. So you got to maintain that bubble. So which means there's a lot of variables that is going on there that needs to be controlled and managed. What happened was, just to give a simple example, in this case, one of the lines was experiencing multiple bubble pops. So in the historical way, the way we used to do it is like, okay, let's go find the historical runs, see if it works, what worked, what didn't work. That was not easy to do. It used to take days, if not weeks. Or you go and ask around the subject matter expert. Hey, he was the operator. He's the lead operator. He knows which knobs to turn, which would work. So it's a tribal knowledge. It's not validated by data, but the fact of the matter is we go and look at the experts to see if we can understand. And then to correlate and come up with a process variable, it's a trial and error. You keep turning and figuring out which works until you make it work. It worked. It's not that we're bad. Remember, the plants were the industry week best plant winning. In this case, it's like this is how most of the other ones operated. When an anomaly happened like this, it's hard to come back. What we found out after the analytics platform and putting in the modeling capabilities and frameworks, people were able to quickly analyze 350 plus process variables and found out which of the different process tags had pointed out that were deviating from where they need to be. So they kind of pointed out the opportunity area on what needs to be looked at in a much, much faster way. If you think about it, like this took 10 minutes to happen, to find out, compared to in the olden days, this process would be very, very difficult to do in an easy way. Not only that, now that you can draw insights from the platform, we were able to make the changes and upgrades and the process improvements and replace hardware components almost on the fly because we know where the root cause of the problems were, and that resulted in a significant shift with respect to the improvement in the quality and the yield. As you could see, this was not a one-off. It's a sustained improvement because now not only you know what impacted, you could analyze the set points and you could also govern the set points, which operator is changing it, who's not managing to the governance points that was set. So it makes it very, very powerful from the operations standpoint and the engineering. It's like, hey, they all love it, that they have tools and insights that will help them drive the changes. Just to extend it, I'm just giving you one of the plan's performance. As you can see, the value creation. Again, goes back to the use case and how we architected it. We worked with the finance teams, controllers, they're all part of it. It goes to the bottom line savings. We measure performance and track different process improvements throughout the year. It shows like how much the yield numbers have improved significantly throughout the year and it's proceeding in the right trajectory. And this is just a sample for one of the plants. We are experiencing this similar performance and progress in multiple of our plants. The key here is around anchoring in the process excellence and the CI capabilities. In fact, I would add, like at this time, we don't have a dedicated data scientist within our facility. We're supporting through our analytics and partners, but not necessarily yet on our teams. But what we are doing is like we've added process engineers for the different plans with support and guidance on how to draw insight from these tools. Last but not the least, what you could see is the empowering people with the analytics, what has been some of the comments and observations made, how people rely on the tools to make their job, and understand how these kind of insights make bottom line impact, not only in the savings and the gross margin improvements, but for people to draw insights and make improvements. So I would like to say at the end, we're just getting started. More to come. We're super excited about the possibilities on what this offers. And thanks again, MLC, for the opportunity to share our case study.